where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. She wasn't the ruler of Olympus, but no god dared to ignore her. Hera, the goddess of marriage, loyalty, and relentless vengeance. Her power didn't come from a throne, but from the unshakable wrath of a deity who protected what was hers. The air on Mount Olympus is not like the air of the mortal world. It is thinner, sweeter, charged with a shimmering potential, as if every molecule is a note of an eternal, unheard symphony. Here, where the marble palaces gleam with a light born from within, and the gardens bloom with flowers that know no season, resides the pantheon of Greek gods. Their stories are etched into our very understanding of love, war, wisdom, and the sea. But high above them all, in the grandest hall of the most majestic palace, sits a throne beside the king of the gods. This is not merely a seat of power. It is the epicenter of a profound, complex, and often terrifying divine force. She is Hera, the queen of Olympus, the goddess of marriage, women, and childbirth. To speak her name is to invoke the sacred vow and the bitter sting of betrayal, the protective warmth of the hearth, and the chilling fury of a scorned wife. She is a paradox wrapped in divine radiance, a defender of order whose own heart is perpetually storm-tossed. Her symbol, the regal peacock, spreads its tail of 100 watchful eyes, a beautiful, unsettling reminder: the queen sees all. Her story is not one of simple majesty, but an epic tapestry woven with threads of gold and thorn, devotion and vengeance, creation and ruin. To understand Hera is to peer into the very heart of the ancient Greek world, its idealized social structures, its deepest fears about fidelity and power, and the immense, often perilous, gravity of a promise sworn before gods. Let us ascend the cloudy slopes, past the gates of cloud manned by the houri, and enter her golden, watchful court. To comprehend Hera's absolute dominion over marriage, we must first understand her origins, which are as primal and formidable as the earth itself. In the earliest Greek cosmogonies recorded by poets like Hesiod, Hera is a daughter of the titans Cronus and Rhea. This places her in the first generation of Olympians, a sibling to Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Demeter, and Hestia. Her birth was shadowed by the same grim prophecy that haunted Cronus, that one of his children would overthrow him. In a cruel act of preservation, Cronus swallowed each of his newborns whole. Hera, like her brothers and sisters, spent her earliest existence trapped in the dark, churning belly of her Titan father, a profound, early imprint of confinement and powerlessness. It was the cunning of Rhea and the strength of the liberated Zeus that finally freed them. This shared trauma of ingestion and rebirth forged a powerful bond among the Olympian siblings, a bond that would later be tested to its very limits. Emerging from the Titan Amatia, the colossal war against the Titans victorious, the three brother gods drew lots for their domains. Zeus won the sky, Poseidon the seas, Hades the underworld. But Hera's power was not won by lot. It was inherent, rooted in an older, more essential stratum of existence. She was a goddess of the earth's fertility, of the sacred feminine cycles of birth and life, long before her marriage to Zeus defined her in the popular imagination. Archaeological evidence, such as ancient cult statues from Samos and Argos, depict a stiff, columnar goddess, a zonon, hinting at her veneration as a primordial force of nature. She was Hera the Virgin, Hera Parthenos, not in the later sense of chastity, but in the sense of being complete unto herself, an independent, potent deity whose authority was her birthright. The central, defining myth of Hera's existence is her marriage to Zeus, a union that was both her greatest source of power and her deepest wound. Their courtship is shrouded in mystery and contradiction. Some legends say Zeus pursued her relentlessly, transforming himself into a disheveled, shivering cuckoo bird to win her pity. Taking the bird to her breast for warmth, she found herself embracing the king of the gods, who then revealed himself and claimed her as his bride. Other older traditions speak of a sacred annual ritual marriage, the Hieros Gamos, reenacted on the island of Samos or in the city of Argos, symbolizing the union of sky and earth that brings forth life. This was no simple love story. It was the divine archetype for all mortal marriages, the celestial blueprint for the most fundamental social contract. As Zeus's wife, Hera became the queen, her authority legitimized and magnified. Yet from the very beginning, the terms of this sacred contract were violated by her husband. Zeus's countless infidelities, with goddesses, nymphs, and mortal women, were not just personal betrayals. They were cosmic insults, a direct assault on the institution Hera embodied and protected. Imagine her position, tasked with upholding the sanctity of marriage, of being its divine enforcer and exemplar, while her own husband, the very king of the gods, flagrantly and repeatedly broke its most sacred vow. This placed Hera in an impossible, agonizing bind. Her power was derivative of his, yet her domain was undermined by him. The resulting emotional landscape within her is the engine for most of Greek mythology, a seething cauldron of righteous fury, bitter jealousy, and a relentless need to assert her sovereignty, not through direct challenge to Zeus, a battle she could rarely win, but through terrifying, ingenious persecution of his lovers and their offspring. The rituals dedicated to Hera across the Greek world were among the most lavish and significant, reflecting her dual role as serene matron and potent, sometimes fearsome, deity. Her primary cult centers were at Argos, Mycenae, and especially on the island of Samos, where her sanctuary housed a legendary ancient wooden image said to have fallen from heaven. Here, the Hera festivals in her honor were held. The most famous was at Olympia, where, in a poignant contrast to the May-lonely Olympic Games, unmarried girls competed in foot races, dedicating their victory to Hera. They ran with their hair unbound, wearing a short tunic that exposed one shoulder and breast, a celebration of youthful female strength and vitality under the goddess's auspices, perhaps an echo of her own premarital independence. These rituals were not merely celebratory, they were acts of profound propitiation. To honor Hera was to seek her blessing on marriages, to pray for safe childbirth, and crucially to avert her wrath. Women would offer pomegranates, a symbol of both fertility and thanks to its association with Persephone, the underworld, and peacock feathers. They would weave sacred robes for her statues, a practice called the peplos, in hopes of weaving stability and favor into their own households. The atmosphere at these festivals was one of heightened emotion. The smell of incense and sacrificed cows, her favored animal, the sound of all-female choruses singing hymns, the sight of dignified priestesses, the hierarchy, performing solemn rites. To encounter Hera in ritual was to engage with the very fabric of social order, to touch the power that could bless a union with harmony or curse it with discord. Now let us witness the legendary echoes of Hera's wrath, a force so potent it could shape destinies and rewrite geography. Our first story is that of Io, a priestess of Hera in Argos. Zeus, ever transfixed by mortal beauty, desired Io. To hide his affair from his all-seeing wife, he shrouded the world in a thick, dark cloud. But Hera, suspicious of this sudden daytime gloom, descended from Olympus and scattered the mist. Zeus, in a panic, transformed the terrified Io into a beautiful white heifer. With cool, devastating politeness, Hera approached. "What a charming creature," she might have said, her voice like honey over steel. "A perfect specimen. Surely, my dear husband, you would not deny your queen such a lovely gift." Trapped by his own deceit, Zeus could only agree. Hera took possession of the heifer and placed her under the guard of Argus Panops, a giant with 100 eyes that never all slept at once. Io, trapped in bovine form, unable to speak, could only low in despair as she was tethered to an olive tree. This was Hera's vengeance, not immediate destruction but a cruel, ingenious imprisonment. She made Io a living testament to Zeus's betrayal, a permanent, watchable prisoner. The grief of Io was a silent scream that echoed across the plains. Her only solace was that Zeus, perhaps stricken with guilt, sent Hermes to rescue her. The messenger god lulled Argus to sleep with stories and music before slaying him, freeing the heifer. But Hera's pursuit was relentless. She sent a gadfly to torment Io, driving her mad with its incessant stinging, chasing her on a frantic, decades-long journey across the world, a journey that gave the Ionian Sea its name. Io's suffering only ceased when she reached Egypt, where, finally restored to human form by Zeus's touch, she gave birth to his son Epaphus. Hera's fury had shaped a continent's mythology. If Io's torment was one of relentless pursuit, the story of Leto demonstrates Hera's absolute geopolitical wrath. Leto, a gentle Titan goddess, caught Zeus's eye and became pregnant with twins who would become the mighty Apollo and Artemis. Hera's response was not mere anger, it was a total, divine embargo. She decreed that no place under the sun where the sun's rays could fall would give shelter to Leto for her childbirth. Furthermore, she commanded the serpentine monster Python to hunt the pregnant goddess, and forbade the goddess of childbirth, Eileithyia, from attending her. Leto became a fugitive, wandering the earth in excruciating labor, unable to find respite. Every island, every city, every grove feared Hera's retribution and turned her away. The very earth trembled under Hera's command. This was the queen exercising her full administrative power, turning the world itself against her rival. Finally, the floating, desolate island of Delos, which was not rooted to the earth and thus technically not under the sun's fixed path, offered sanctuary, desperate for the honor. Even then, Hera held Eileithyia captive on Olympus for 9 days, prolonging Leto's agony. Only through the clever intervention of other goddesses was Eileithyia smuggled to Delos. Leto, gripping a palm tree, finally gave birth first to Artemis, who, with preternatural speed, then assisted in the birth of Apollo. The children, powerful in their own right, would forever bear a grudge against Hera's cruelty, with Apollo later slaying the python that had hounded their mother. Hera's vendetta created a new celestial order, birthing 2 Olympians who would be her constant thorns, a testament to how her actions ricocheted through the divine family, creating alliances and enmities that would last for eternity. Perhaps the most epic and personal of Hera's conflicts was her relentless persecution of Heracles, whose very name means glory of Hera. He was the son of Zeus and the mortal woman Alcmene. Zeus, in his arrogance, once proclaimed that the next descendant of Perseus to be born would rule Mycenae. Intending this for his own son, he was outmaneuvered by Hera. She delayed Heracles' birth and hastened the birth of his cousin, Eurystheus, ensuring Eurystheus became the king to whom Heracles would be subservient. From his infancy, Hera sent serpents to kill him in his crib. The baby Heracles strangled them with his divine strength. Her hatred was the defining crucible of his life. It was Hera who, years later, struck him with a temporary madness, causing him to murder his own wife and children. The horror of this act drove him to seek purification, leading to the famous 12 labors, imposed by King Eurystheus, Hera's tool. Each labor was a near-impossible task designed to destroy him: the Nemean lion, the Lernaean hydra, the Erymanthian boar. Yet, in a profound irony, it was through overcoming Hera's persecutions that Heracles achieved his immortal glory. Her enmity forged him into the greatest of Greek heroes. In the end, after his mortal death and ascension to Olympus, a final, shocking reconciliation occurred. Heracles married Hera's daughter, Hebe, the goddess of youth. Some interpretations suggest this symbolizes the hero's final acceptance into the divine order Hera protects. His trials had paid a blood debt, and he was now family. Hera's relationship with Heracles is the ultimate expression of her complex role. She is the obstacle, the tester, the divine authority that must be appeased and overcome for ultimate apotheosis. Her wrath was not mindless evil, but a severe, brutal instrument of cosmic balance and purification. Hera's conflicts were not solely with Zeus's lovers. She also clashed directly with her husband in moments of breathtaking divine rebellion. One famous myth tells of a time when Hera, Poseidon, and Athena, exasperated by Zeus's tyrannical arrogance, conspired to chain him to his throne. They succeeded, and while Zeus raged, impotent, the gods began to redistribute his powers. The plan unraveled when the sea goddess Thetis, fearing civil war, summoned the 100-handed hecatoncheir Briareos to Olympus. The mere sight of this primordial monster, loyal to Zeus, was enough to make the conspirators back down. Zeus's retribution was swift. As the instigator, Hera was punished most severely. He hung her from the sky with golden chains, anvils attached to her feet, suspending her in torment over the void. She was left there, weeping in pain and humiliation, until all the gods swore never to rebel again. Only then was she released. This story reveals the dangerous volatility of the Olympian power structure and Hera's own fierce ambition. She was not a passive victim but a political player who, when pushed too far, would risk everything to challenge the king. The image of the Queen of Heaven, the epitome of regal dignity, strung up like a common criminal, is one of the most stark and powerful in all mythology. It underscores the brutal reality of power on Olympus, where even the queen was subject to the king's ultimate physical dominance, a humiliating counterpoint to her own moral authority over the sanctity of vows. Beyond the tales of vengeance, Hera's protective and creative aspects shine through in lesser-known myths, revealing the goddess in her intended benevolent role. She was the special patron of the city of Argus and its champions. When the infant prophet Olympus was found with snakes cleaning his ears, granting him the ability to understand animal speech, it was seen as a sign of Hera's favor. She aided the hero Jason and the Argonauts, not because she liked Jason, but because she despised his uncle Peleus, who had neglected her worship. Her support was crucial in their quest for the Golden Fleece. In a charming myth explaining the Milky Way, Hera was nursing the infant Heracles in a rare moment of maternal instinct, or perhaps because he was presented to her while she slept. When she awoke and pushed him away, her divine milk sprayed across the heavens, creating the starry path. This ethereal reminder in the night sky ties her to the cosmos itself. She also intervened to save the shipwrecked Greeks after the Trojan War, calming a storm sent by Athena in a rare show of direct, protective power. These stories are vital to completing her portrait. They show that Hera's power, when channeled through loyalty and proper respect, was a force for miraculous aid, prophecy, and cosmic creation. She was not solely a goddess of retribution, but the guardian of social and cosmic order. To have Hera as an ally was to have the foundational power of the universe on your side. To have her as an enemy was to invite a meticulously orchestrated ruin. Hera's legacy extends far beyond the pages of ancient texts, deeply embedded in Western art, thought, and culture. In Renaissance and Baroque painting, she is a favorite subject, depicted by artists like Rubens and Giordano in all her majestic fury or serene power, often with the iconic peacock at her side. She embodies the archetype of the jealous wife in countless literary references, from Shakespeare's parallels in characters like Hermione to modern psychological terminology, where Hera's jealousy is shorthand for a specific righteous rage. In psychoanalytic theory, particularly Jungian archetypes, she represents the wife and the queen, the aspect of the feminine concerned with partnership, commitment, and the structures of relationship. Her influence seeps into modern fantasy literature and cinema, where queenly figures who wield authority derived from marriage, yet possess their own formidable, often moralistic, power carry her echo. Think of Cersei Lannister in Game of Thrones, whose fixation on her children and fury at her husband's infidelities are deeply Hera-esque. Modern pagan and neoclassical movements often revere Hera in her aspect as a protector of women and marriages, seeking to reclaim her from the simplistic, jealous shrew narrative. She appears in video games, comic books, and television series, constantly reinterpreted. This enduring presence speaks to the raw, timeless power of her domain. The struggles she represents, fidelity versus betrayal, the sanctity of vows versus the chaos of desire, the quest for personal power within a partnership, are eternally human conflicts. Hera is the divine mirror to our own most profound social anxieties and aspirations. So who is Hera truly? She is the gleaming throne and the golden chain. She is the wedding veil and the gadfly's sting. She is the protective embrace that shelters the cuckoo and the relentless gaze of the peacock's 100 eyes. Her story is the story of Olympus itself, a magnificent, gilded order built upon a foundation of passion, betrayal, and brutal power struggles. She is the divine guardian of civilization's most sacred contract, a contract she herself was forced to endure in its most brutally violated form. To dismiss her as merely jealous is to miss the profound tragedy and power of her position. Her wrath was the logical, terrifying consequence of a world where the supreme lawmaker was also the supreme lawbreaker. Her benevolence was the nurturing force that blessed unions, protected cities, and painted the night sky with starlight. In Hera, we see the ancient Greeks wrestling with the contradictions of their own social ideals, the elevation of marriage alongside the tacit acceptance of male prerogative, the fear of female power alongside the reverence for the life-giving maternal force. She is not a comfortable goddess. She does not offer easy solace. She is complex, severe, majestic, and wounded. She reminds us that the highest authority often bears the deepest scars, and that the guardians of order sometimes must wield chaos as their tool. As the clouds once more close over the peak of Olympus, her watchful presence remains, a permanent fixture in our cultural sky, a queen, a wife, a protector, and an avenger, forever defining the terrifying and beautiful gravity of a vow. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.